requests for the same information?
Yes, we do get multiple requests for the same information.
So I don't remember so if I request information, can my neighbor access that same information that I requested? So when it becomes public, I mean, it's public information. Yes, I requested it. Here's the specifics of what I've requested. But can anybody in the community see and capture that information that I've requested personally?
So are you, just to clarify, are you asking if when we fill a public information request, are we posting all the responsive documents somewhere like online? Is that what you're asking?
So
Just to make sure.
I'm saying that could be a solution for repeated public information in regards to the same information.
I've never heard of that approach being taken before. Christine, would you like to weigh in?
So what I guess what I was more curious about is whether it's on the state level or wherever, when we submit the public information, we're submitting it to an individual.
Correct.
So not necessarily that individual is going to share it with the community.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
And typically what, if you look at a district like Seguin, what you'll see on their chart, on their public information officer's page is they'll have someone ask for information, and then they'll have other people ask for a copy of the information that person got.
Okay, so that can be done. You can get...
That can be done.
Yeah, because once it becomes public, it's public information.
Sure, sure.
So if we've captured the information, so I guess, one option is to, here's the public information request, here's the information associated with that,
Yeah.
make it available to the community, and it could potentially reduce the redundancy.
Yeah, and again, Christine can talk with you all about that more. That there might be issues with the production costs and that kind of things.
Good, thank you.
So we've kicked around establishing some kind of fee to do this research and this work
Yes.
to do away with some of this nonsense.
Yes. So if you,
Where are we at on that?
yes, sir. So if you look at the top line that you can see on the chart right there, I'll walk and point if that's okay.
Yes, sir.
You can see that for some of these requests, with the assistance of legal counsel, we are distributing cost estimate letters. So what that means is we're just sending letters to requesters that advise them that to comply with their request. We're requiring them to, how would you say it?
Just that when there's a cost associated with complying with the request, or fulfilling the request, it's $20 to give them an estimate before you actually assess the charge and do all the work. So it's kind of a stopgap measure so that if someone's not going to be interested in paying hundreds of dollars to receive, a very extensive amount of information, we can know that before we do that work.
And that'll be done in that 10-day window. So it has been done.
It's been done twice.
I believe we've sent 3 cost estimate letters.
So this is what we're going to charge you if we give you this
Correct.
information.
Correct.
We have responses from each other.
That's correct.
Oh, they are going to pay.
In 2 of the 3 cases, we have received bond payments that would engender the fulfillment of the request.
So when we've done those, we've had to get legal counsel for each of those estimates?
I've been assisting with that.
Okay, why? Why can't we just make an estimate based on the raw data that we have? Why do we need to pay legal counsel to help us get an estimate? Because an estimate's just an estimate, and good faith.
We can talk about that a little more in closed session, if that's okay.
We can't talk about it here.
Again, it is in really vice territory, so just
Okay,
I guess my question is, does it all have to be an estimate, or can it just be a flat fee?
it cannot be a flat fee.
And my comment to this is there's 157 hours, so it's close to a month's worth of one person's time. However, it's spread amongst Dr. Zinger, Human Resources, the accounting, and a bunch of different departments. I know, Dr. Zinger was hired, and he's done some great things for us, streamlining our communications, working on improving the website and things like that. But there's a dollar cost, but there's also the cost of what we're not able to accomplish. And I remember the conversation Dr. Huber was first hired, one of the first conversations we had was how excited he was to not only do the communications work and those types of things, but also be able to get into the classroom and work with the kids. He comes to us with being a professor at university. So he has classroom experiences, he has real life experiences that he can share with our kids. And because of all of these requests, he's done some significant work for us, but our kids are not getting an additional education experience that they should be getting because of this. So I just wanted to kind of make that clear. We do have a financial side, we have a time side, but our kids are not getting some other benefits. I believe Joseph Cortez was talking about, being on the leadership council. He got an educational benefit being on that leadership council. Well, what about some other kids that could have another type of educational benefit by being able to have Dr. Zimmer work with them, teaching a whole slew of different types of things. So that's my two cents on this, but I appreciate your report. And the other thing too is if we need to talk about at some point if these requests continue, and if we look at hourly rates of people, we sit there and go, do we need to hire somebody to come in and work these requests, because it is getting to be so cumbersome that we are neglecting other things that need to be taken care of.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Next item is a discussion of board policy, DCE local, employment practices, and other types of contracts. Dr. Smith?
Good evening, Ms. Whipple, members of the board, Dr. Lvisd. This report pertains to policy DCE local, which is the employment practices, other contract types. This agenda item proposes extending non-Chapter 21 contracts to additional exempt employees that currently are addressed by an employment agreement. This action also proposes replacing the practice of listing affected positions in policy and substituting the practice of providing contracts for positions included on the list approved by the board. This means that if district officials want to change a duty title on a position, we don't have to go through the major board policy change, and we can bring that change to the board to adjust the listing of those contracts. The red is the text we're taking out. The blue is the text we're adding. Non-Chapter 21 contracts shall be provided for positions included on the list approved by the board. A non-Chapter 21 contract shall not be governed by Chapter 21 of the Education Code. Next slide, please. This is the proposed listing and what it would look like. This would be titled the Board Approved Listing of Positions Eligible for Non-Chapter 21 Contracts, and those are the listings of the duty titles associated with this change. We have added 6 additional positions from the text in our current policy, and those 6 positions are currently covered by an employment agreement, which in effect is a non-binding agreement on employment. Are there any questions?
Is this the proposed list with the additional 6?
Yes.
Okay.
So what is the benefit to the district to do this, and what's the negative to the district?
Well, there's a benefit really for management as well as the employee, excuse me. From management's perspective, that makes these positions not at will. They are contracted. So if a person chooses to leave the district, management has some ability because of the contract to negotiate the terms of the person's departure. That's one. The employee has a protection because they are no longer at will and not treated, at least in a human resource perspective, the same as a non-exempt hourly employee. So there really are advantages to both sides.
Okay, and the disadvantage to the district?
Disadvantage is that under an employment agreement, an employee can just say, I'm not going to come to work anymore, and that's the end. And they can leave and leave the district high and dry until they can find a suitable replacement. If a person is under a contract, most often the district would say, well, we'll support you, but we will release you upon identification of a suitable replacement.
Okay, but what I didn't hear you say, the disadvantage to the district is we're locked to an employee. We can't terminate an employee. That's because they're no longer at will, right?
There are termination rules for a
Right, but
non-chapter
they're much more
20.
laborious on this type of contract than a at will employee, right?
That's correct.
Have we had issue with these positions, people leaving and leaving us high and dry?
We've had employees leave on an employment agreement.
On these positions?
Yes.
Okay. One, two,
We had one recently.
so what we're weighing out is the security we get from making them not at will, as opposed to the burden we get from making them at will.
Yeah, it's really cleaning up. We have a practice right now, chapter 21, non-chapter 21, and employment agreements. Employment agreements don't carry much weight on either side. So what we're trying to do is showing a good faith, commitment on our part to the employee for the investment in that, as well as their commitment back to us. They are degree, many licensed individuals, they just don't carry aspect certification.
We're also all exempt employees.
Right. They're all exempt.
Since it,
So you said they're degree, but they're not
Most
required?
of
Oh,
Most of
okay,
them.
yeah, because they're not all, right, and it's a requirement.
since it takes 2 readings for the board to approve a change to policy, any employee who receives an employment agreement later on this evening, it is our intention that once this is approved, if it's approved, that we would double back and then offer those people on an employment agreement, a Chapter 21 contract for 2019-2020 school year.
And non-chapter 21.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
When you look at other districts on how they establish non-chapter 21 versus 21, is this something that you would see typical in other districts as well?
Yes,
Okay.
these are important positions for the district.
And chapter 21 and non-chapter 21 is straight, based on aspect certification. It's really, this is really looking at the non-chapter 21 and the employee agreements. So exempt employees that don't have aspect certification.
So there are possibilities that people that are on this list, based on title alone, may have certifications and have a chapter 21 contract.
You could, correct. Depending on who they are.
So if we do take action and give them the current contract set up, and then change it, and we go to offer them other, can they decline that and keep the current contract?
I guess they could, yes.
Meaning the employee in agreement?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say yes.
So until that is resolved, should we take action, or do you have a recommendation?
This is just a reading, so.
No, but he was talking about apparently later improving something.
Well, this is not actionable until
You're
this
talking
board
about-
policy is
understand.
I
approved.
think the question
You
is,
made
should we
this
take action on the listing for the employment agreements later this evening?
Right, that might be affected by that.
Yeah, the issue would be, is really notifying the employee before the 10th day of the last day of instruction. So be consistent with, our board meeting is May 20th, and so that's within that time period. So, by law, we have to notify certified staff, before the 10th day of instruction. So to be consistent with that is just to make the decision, and then move forward with this depending on what that decision is. So, so I would recommend moving forward. That's why we're bringing it to you tonight as an employment agreement, because that's what's currently allowable in policy.
Are there any other questions?
The next item is discussion of board policy, TPC local and DEC exhibit compensation benefits based on and absences.
This report pertains to DEC local, which deals with reimbursement of leave upon separation or retirement. The philosophy behind reimbursement of leave is to keep employees on the job, rather than have an employee burn their leave because there's no benefit received from saving or banking that leave. Now, I will say, first of all, there are a lot of employees that bank their leave for possible FMLA reasons later on, that it's like a safety check. It's there for them if they have some sort of medical emergency or family emergency. But the philosophy across districts has proven to be really sound for most people. There are some people that are, they're just going to use their leave as it comes in. There are others, though, that decide that there is a benefit to saving it for future use, for an emergency possibly, or because the district may reimburse. I would just like to mention that when we talk about reimbursement of leave, we're talking about all employees. This is not a teacher's issue. This is a custodian issue, it's a bus driver issue, and it's a paraprofessional issue, because all employment categories in the district have the opportunity to save their leave, and in so doing, they're on the job more often. The policy reads that that the rate and any requirements established by the board shall be in effect until the board adopts a new rate or revises the eligibility requirements for the reimbursement program. As requested by a board member, we have examined our current practice of paying out leave. We have attempted to adjust the payout amounts in light of our current budget situation. If we could please go to page 7 of 7, which is the very last page of the regulation. Oops, there we go, sorry. You'll notice where it reads, an eligible employee shall be reimbursed at a rate established by the board if the employee is re-employed by the district. Days for which the employee received payment shall not be available to that employee. That's in our existing policy right now. We're proposing that we take the existing schedule, we revise it, but then put it as part of our policy for everybody to see. Right now, our procedures are kind of buried in the bowels of HR, and it's not transparent at all for our employees. That's why we propose placing it as an exhibit. Next page, please. This is an undated reimbursement table, which has been used as best as we can determine for approximately the last 6 years. I will point out to you that in this area here, we pay local leave for folks that are resigning from their district. Those are the people that are moving on to a job somewhere else. This is resignation as opposed to retirement. And the rates are up there, and we have maximum amounts for numbers of days. The next row down first starts talking about folks that retire. And the first is retirement with at least 2 weeks' notice. In all of these categories in the past and in what we're proposing, the employee has to have at least 10 days of accrued leave to be eligible for this program. Under that second row, we were paying $50 per day for professionals with a maximum of $1,500, $25 per day for paraprofessionals with a maximum of $750. Now, notice that we do not pay out right now state leave upon retirement in this particular category. And I guess I should have also mentioned, we don't pay out state leave under resignation because local leave stays with the district, but state leave follows the individual to their next duty location. On the third row down, under current rules, we pay out people if they retire after 5 years of service with at least 2 weeks' notice. Again, there is for local leave, there is a maximum of $1,500, and for the paraprofessionals, there's a maximum of $750. However, on the state side, we pay out $50 per day for professionals and 25 days for paraprofessionals, but you'll note there's no maximum rate there, so it's open-ended. And I will share with you that some of our lengthy service employees have 75, 85 days of state personal leave, and with that open-ended ability and need to pay out, it's a tremendous burden on the district. In the final category, it's retire after 10 years of service with at least 2 weeks' notice, and the amounts for local leave stay the same. There are the maximum amounts, but it changes from 50 to 65 and from 25 to 58. Yeah, 25 to 58 per day for paraprofessionals. I believe there are some holes in the way we're doing this program. And first of all, I'd like to point out, nowhere is there a provision for our auxiliary employees. This schedule really only allows payment to professionals and paraprofessionals. And you'll see in a moment, we're going to propose that this be opened up to our auxiliary personnel as well.
Are we reimbursed by the state for the state payment that we would make? Or only reimbursed if they are taking state days, if they're actually taking the day off? If we are paying it out, are we being reimbursed by the state?
No. There's no. And even though a person is retiring, they still take their state personal days with them, which is kind of a strange arrangement, if that's the way it is. They're always yours. They're always yours. They stay on your service record.
So does it mean they could use them again if they?
Well, if they come back to work in some capacity, possibly, depending upon the terms of the agreement when they return to work as a retiree.
Just take it off.
And I don't want to overly hammer it home, but the problem is this scale is not readily available to our employees, and if we create an exhibit, it would solve that problem. Can I have the next slide, please?
So is this midterm? I mean, so during their school year? I mean, so it's midterm?
I don't understand.
During the term of their contract, or?
Yes.
I'm not sure I know the right words to say, but, I mean, if school starts on September
Okay,
and goes through end of May,
right.
is that the time period we're talking about? I mean, so if I want to retire,
Yes, is
I
that,
mean, I retire during the summer, right? And does that alleviate this?
no, you still would be eligible for payout.
Okay,
Is that the question?
This would be in effect for next year.
okay. Oh, these are the rates that you're paying for the leave that you have accumulated.
Yes.
Correct.
I missed that, thank you.
Okay, good. Now, this is what we propose to put into DEC exhibit. And you will notice that what we're proposing is not paying out for any local leave upon resignation. Remember, that's the employee that leaves Livonia and goes on to some other school district. It is true, and a negative to this is that when you depart a district and get hired somewhere else, your local leave stays with us. In other words, you don't take that with you. In the second row, we have changed the text to read, retire with less than 5 years service with Livonia, and we have changed the amount to the current substitute rate. So the $75 per day for professionals, and the maximum would be $525 for that category, and the paraprofessionals, and notice we've added auxiliary, would be $65 per day for a maximum of $455. Now, there was a method to our developing this, in that maximum amount is calculated for up to 7 days of payback. So when you figure that an employee with less than 5 years service with us, and then they retire, they would only be, their maximum amount would be calculated at the equivalent of 7 days. The next line down, thank you, Ed, is retire after 5 or more years of service. It's still the same amount of $75 and $65, but the maximum amount shifts for professionals to $1,050 and for paraprofessionals to $910. And, excuse me, the maximum was calculated, whereas this was based on 7 days, this maximum is based on 14 days. And an employee could walk off with $1,050 plus $1,050 if you have local and state, for a total of $2,100. And paraprofessionals could get $910 in each area for a total of $1,820. I said paraprofessionals, but I meant also auxiliary if this is approved. Next row, please. If you retire after 10 or more years of service with Livonia, it's still the same $75 and $65 for both local and state leave, but the maximum for this category here is the maximum amount is based on 21 days. So we've gone from 7 to 14 to 21 days, which affects the maximum amount. So a professional could get $1,575, could get the same amount for their state personal for a total of $3,150. The paras could have $1,365 on each category of leave for a maximum of $2,730. And then we added a new area. So